figure out where you want to be.
Hmm.
And if everyone listening could take 2 minutes later today to say, I'm in this business or I want to start a business, where do I want to be in 5 years? Or what is the end game for that business? That's a win because most people don't know what they're trying to achieve. Catcher once said, if you don't know where you're going, you're probably not going to get there.
Here we go, entrepreneurs. Today's guest has over 30 years experience starting and growing companies, so that's going to help out everyone who is tuning in today. He has a lot of expertise in business planning, helping over 1 million entrepreneurs, yes, you heard that right, and business owners create business plans to raise capital, start and grow their businesses. Right now, he's leveraging a new company to work with this AI game that everyone's in, but very respectfully, his company he launched in 1999, co-founder of Growth Inc. Their goal, no surprise here, to help entrepreneurs and business owners start, grow, and sell their companies. And this company made it to the 5,000 list of America's fastest growing private companies, not once, two, three, but 5 times. So, Dave, thank you for joining us here on That Entrepreneur Show.
Thank you for having me, and it's my pleasure to be here.
Where are you streaming in from today?
I'm in Bend, Oregon, so right in the center of the state of Oregon.
I love that. Well, thank you for joining me all the way down here in Florida. And to everyone who is tuning in today, thank you for stopping by another episode here on That Entrepreneur Show, the #1 podcast for small business owners and entrepreneurs to get out of their own way and start doing magnificent things. We're brought to you today by Coming Alive Podcastproduction.com. And as I mentioned, we're going to dive into a bunch of topics that can help everyone, whether you're starting or need to get on track. But first, you know how this goes, Dave. What led you to entrepreneurship? Why did you know this was the industry for you?
As a kid, I just always sort of beat to a different drum and I wanted to start things. I started a snow shoveling company when I was like 12, 13 years old.
Me too. Yeah.
And when it used to snow when I was a kid, I grew up in New York and everyone would race out to neighbors with their shovels and shovel snow. And by 2 in the afternoon, there was no more business because all the snow had been shoveled. So I did that for a while. Then I figured out, well, hey, if I spend $500 and bought a snowblower, I could do a lot more houses faster. So I was the first one in the neighborhood to do that. And basically, then I started getting contracts with neighbors for the winter. And that was sort of my first taste of entrepreneurship when I was just a kid. And so that sort of started. That was just who I am, is I like to do other things. And then after college, I started working at other companies and quickly learned I'm not meant for this. I'm not meant to work for somebody else. And so I basically took some of the skills that I learned and started my first business many years ago.
I too had my shovel out. I grew up in New York as well. About in New York were you?
In Long Island, the place is called Rockville Center.
I went to Northport High School.
Very cool, not too far away.
Yeah, a small world, everyone. And of
Yep,
course, we're streaming in as Cold Connections, making some magic happen here. I moved down to Florida because I was tired of winter, but I do remember the hustle. And as a kid, $100 is $100. It's a lot that day. You're like,
yep,
oh, wow, I can
yep.
survive and do things. So that's awesome. And then as you got older, you moved past snow shoveling. I know eventually you settled in Oregon. Which company came next?
What happened was that I worked for a company called Find SVP, which was, this is in the early 90s, a little bit older, and I was doing market research. And what I did there is I figured out that, hey, I can provide these services to other types of businesses. My uncle had an energy consulting company. I said, hey, let me come aboard and launch this new division in your company doing these market research services that I learned to do. So I did that for a couple of years, actually worked with a company at the time called Brooklyn Union, a very large utility in the state in Brooklyn, in New York. And what I did with the research and the studies we did for them is I ended up, they needed a business plan to launch a new division. So I actually wrote a business plan for them. And that business plan actually turned into what is now called National Grid, a multi-billion-dollar energy company, because that was during deregulation of the energy business. So I did that and I was like, wow, this is really interesting, really cool. I would love to start more businesses, but I really didn't know how. And so that's when I went to UCLA to go to the Anderson School of Business. And this was in 1997. At the time, it was ranked the #1 entrepreneurship program in the entire world. And so it was a great place as the .com bubble was going. And so I went there and met with tons of great entrepreneurs and basically learned how to start and grow businesses. And while I was there, I actually took a class on business planning. And the professor, this guy, Alan Carzud, was a serial entrepreneur. And really, I got the bug and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then outside of school, people started asking me to help them write business plans for their companies. And so that's sort of how I get started with writing business plans, is I really wanted to learn how to start my own businesses. And it turns out there was a need for a company to write business plans. So I basically took my passion for entrepreneurship and actually started helping other people launch their own companies while growing my own business.
I love it. So, Cali, Oregon, you were done with the East Coast.
Yeah, I was done. When I was looking for business schools, I had some options in the Northeast and elsewhere. And then they say New Yorkers either love or hate Los Angeles. And I love the warm weather. So came out to Los Angeles in 1997, ended up staying there for about 7 years.
Congratulations on a successful move across the country. Everyone, if you are having that need to move, you think it will be good for yourself or for your business, let's use today's guest as an example here, where if you put your mind to it, great things can happen. And I guess out there, you started to network a bit, you started to do a lot of things. But as you're creating this first, maybe legitimate, right, moving past the snow shoveling, what were some of the bigger pain points you had as you were getting going?
We learned the hard way through ups and downs. So basically, in 1999, we grew to 20 employees within the first year. We were rocking and rolling. We grew, and then we had the dot-com bust a year or two into the company. So now we're left with 20 full-time employees. And so we had to weather that storm. And then once again in 2008, when you had the financial crisis, we'd also ramped up and ramped back down. So basically, we learned a lot during those two economic downturns about making sure your company doesn't have too much burn. And you got to be very careful. And even as a business planner, it's very hard to forecast your growth, particularly if you don't have outside capital. And so we learned, how do you grow a business in a way that you have less risk? And so right now, a lot of what we do is, with like anyone can do, is contractors. You use contractors for a lot of positions that, hey, it's just a part-time gig. They know it's a part-time gig. It can get bigger or smaller based on what your needs are. So we basically learned the hard way how to scale up a business without taking the risk, after screwing it up two times in 2001, 2002, and 2008. So when COVID came, we were actually fully prepared, because jumping around a little bit, I'd been to New York. We actually moved out to Bend, Oregon in 2015, and we had basically started virtualizing the company years before COVID, with everyone being in their own places. So now we actually have people throughout the world. We have people in Italy, in Portugal, and throughout the United States, and all over the world, and everyone's just virtual, working where they want to work. Sort of what you said before, is just what's right for you and where you're going to be more productive, and by also limiting our headcount and our fixed costs.
I love everything you said there. Thank you for sharing that. And you said you find ways to reduce this burn. Are there any common, I don't know if I want to call them mistakes, right? Anti-burn moves, right? Is there anything that you see across consistently, I could say, that may apply to some of our audience, where we can help them maybe reduce some of that burn?
Sure. One is office space. Clearly, if you're a brick and mortar business, you need space. If you're not a brick and mortar business, you really want to limit how much money you're spending on space. Now, particularly when you're starting a company, it's great to have a lot of people in a room, and there's no substitute for that, particularly if young employees. So our employees now, a lot of our employees have been with us 10, 15 years, that were in the office with us many, many years ago. And it's really hard to train, teach younger people without physically being very, very close to them. So that it depends on your type of organization. So you got to keep that in mind. But particularly as you grow, office space is a huge cost. So really, office space and personnel are generally those two big costs that really add to your burn, that you got to be really careful about.
Thank you for sharing that. Of course, my company is also a virtual company. So when I work out of my house, I mean, there are tax benefits there, but that's a whole nother conversation. So everyone,
Mhm.
it may be an obvious right in front of you. If you're spending a couple grand a month in office space, maybe see if there is an ability to leverage that into a remote setting. So be sure to stick around to the end of the show when we get Dave's contact info, because he is a wonderful resource to have in your corner as you continue to scale. And then you kept going, though. You didn't stop there. You're a serial entrepreneur. Walk us through the next one in your timeline.
GrowThink's been the main company, and we've launched multiple companies underneath that. We launched a bunch of companies to sell business plan software. We launched planbuilder.com many years ago, and now planpros.ai is our current AI business plan software. We launched a company called Guiding Metrics, which is a dashboarding company. We have Growth and Capital, which is a company, an investment bank that helps raise capital for companies. And we have GT Securities, which is a network of 200 investment bankers working together to grow their banking practices. So basically, once you start, it's a lot easier to spin off other things because you learn that business. For example, we're helping entrepreneurs with their business plans. What next natural step? Hey, I need to raise capital. Can you help me do that? And that's how Growth and Capital was formed. Hey, we need help managing our business and managing all of our metrics. That's how Guiding Metrics was formed. So really, it's a lot easier to form a company when you know there's market demand out there already.
Thank you for sharing that. And that's a big thing there. We can have a great idea, but if there's no need or demand for it,
Yeah.
it's not going to go very far. But your latest company now is using AI. Why did you know, or when did you know that it was the time to start using AI in your next venture?
Sure. I mean, AI obviously has been all the rage for the last couple of years, particularly now. We started using this sort of very basic ChatGPT a couple of years ago and understanding and looking at it and realizing that it writes very, very well. It's a very good human writer. So we basically, years ago, we were charging $10,000 and $15,000 to write a business plan. And I started playing around with prompts and saying, wow, we can create a business plan that's just as good as the $10,000 to $15,000 plan in 20 minutes. And it's all about the right prompts. And having personally written over 500 business plans and helping over 1 million others write their business plans through templates and software, I knew the exact prompts and I knew the exact questions to ask. So basically, you can't just go into ChatGPT and write a business plan. You need to be very specific with your prompts, and you need very specific inputs, such as what is your company name, where are you located, who are your target customers. You need to input the right information. So basically, what I create with planpros.ai is sort of a questionnaire that basically pulls in those 30 pieces of information that the AI needs, and then I formulate very, very complex queries into ChatGPT and other Claude and different AI tools, large language models, to pull back the information. And then financial modeling, that cannot be done currently using ChatGPT and tools like that. So our financial modeling is completely separate software that's ingrained in that we built. So basically, we married the two and now the beauty is, and I've actually compared it, I've actually used it versus past business plans that we charge $10,000 to $15,000. And you can do now in 20 minutes with Plan Pros, a plan that's just as good, if not better, than that $15,000 plan. So I'm really happy with that.
Well, congratulations on the pivot and the continued growth, everyone. I hope this episode is inspiring you to not just look right in front of you. If you're on entrepreneurship, you know it's 10 or 15 steps ahead, but this is a great imagery painted of logical steps that make sense. And you can apply this to your business if you're now thinking what's next in this sequence without forcing it. So I absolutely love everything you shared there. But everyone, we're not done yet. Again, now at the end of the episode, we're going to talk about some of these AI tools, how to find all that. But I'd be remiss if I passed by his best-selling book, Start at the End: How Companies Can Grow Bigger and Faster by Reversing Their Business Plan. And before we get into the nitty-gritty with the book, did you always see yourself becoming an author when you were a young kid?
I did not. I wrote the book, it was 2012 or 2011 when I wrote it. I have a very good childhood friend, and she is a literary agent, and she sort of encouraged me to do it. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so we got Wiley to publish it, and they got excited about it. And so I'm happy in hindsight that I did it. It was a lot of work. Writing a book is a lot of work. So at the time, I don't think I was as excited, but now being able to look back, my favorite thing is Rob Dyrdek. He's the MTV show Ridiculousness. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars today. And he quoted that book, my book, Start at the End, as the most influential business book he ever read. And he attributes much of his success to that. So to me, I know a lot of other people have attributed success to that, but to hear that of a really super successful entrepreneur really got value from the book, and I know a lot of others have, that makes me feel really, really happy, because that's what I'm doing this for. I'm doing this for because I think entrepreneurship is the greatest force on earth that allows ordinary people like you and I and your listeners to achieve great things. And what it does when you achieve great things, you create great jobs, you add taxpayer dollars, which fund the homelessness and every other thing that we need. So I think entrepreneurship is like the greatest force on earth. So I'm just trying to do my part.
I know the book's target is for entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, all entrepreneurs. Is there a target age for this book, or is there a target reader perhaps? Or if you wouldn't mind expanding so we can get you hopefully some book sales and in turn add some value to some entrepreneurs' lives.
Sure. I mean, kids as young as 14, 15 read the book. I've had people as old as 80 read the book. And so it's really for entrepreneurs and business owners. It's less for sort of the aspiring entrepreneurs will get a lot of value out of it. But really the goal is the number one thing out of the book is to figure out where you want to be.
Hmm.
And if everyone listening could take 2 minutes later today to say, I'm in this business or I want to start a business, where do I want to be in 5 years? Or what is the end game for that business? That's a win because most people don't know what they're trying to achieve. They're like, hey, I just want to try something. I want to do something. I want to make a little money. But unless you figure out where you want to go, it's really hard to accomplish it. Yogi Berra, New York Yankees catcher, once said, if you don't know where you're going, you're probably not going to get there. And so that's my key takeaway. Even if you don't read the book, just to think about where you're trying to go, and that will help keep you focused.
Yeah, well, let's see. As we're recording this, of course, they air a little later, but we're recording this playoff time right now. Are you a Yankee fan?
Mets just got kicked out. You know something? I'm not a huge baseball fan.
I had to
I
catch
thought
myself because I forgot that.
I grew up Long Island. You're more of a Mets fan than more in the city. You're more of in general, more of a Yankees fan. I have friends that are both. I like them both. Historically, more of a Mets fan.
Unorthodox Jet Yankee Ranger combination. Of course, Knicks as well, but was never gonna be tall enough to play some kind of serious basketball. So I always strayed away, but I always root for New York sports. But everyone, you've been patient. We've heard a lot of value today. We talked about business planning, starting companies, scaling companies, his book, a lot of great things, and of course, the AI business. We're about to get all that contact, but first, if you could pick any entrepreneur, Dave, dead or alive, to sit down with and pick their brain, who's at the top of the list?
I would go with Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison, I don't know all the details of his life. I know he invented a lot of great things. The one thing that he came up with that always sticks in my mind is that he used to interview people. And what he would do is he would interview them over lunch. He would have a bowl of soup in front of him and a bowl of soup in front of the person he was interviewing. And he would wait to see if the person would add salt to their soup before tasting it. And that was a big thing back in the day. And basically, his thinking was that if someone put salt in their soup right away, he would never hire them because they basically had preconceived notions. So he wants you to taste your soup and figure out what you like. And so it's very important as an entrepreneur not to have preconceived notions. And Edison did a ton of testing. It didn't work. Test again. Keep trying. Keep trying. So he was really bullhead. And I think it's very important in entrepreneurship to a point. To a point, you need most things don't work the first time. So how do I iterate this? How do I try again? At some point, you have to say it's not working. Edison did it. He kept trying and trying. But you got to appreciate that. So I appreciate his durability, I hate to use stubbornness, but in a good way, and his determination. So I would love to speak with him and hopefully get a little of that to rub off on me.
Entrepreneurship isn't about being the smartest or the best at anything. It's who's going to be the last man standing. And for
Yep.
me, throwing in the towel as I started as an author before podcasting and I was a school speaker,
Mm.
had mental health books for each age group. COVID comes, schools don't have money, they're understaffed, all these things. As much as I love doing that, that's not going to support me to live and eat food.
Right.
So you slowly start pivoting to ghostwriting and podcast production. That's what led us to the amazing guest today. Dave, you crushed it. Where can we find you online? And also please include all companies in the book.
Sure. So online for the book, if you go to Amazon or elsewhere and type in start at the end, actually start at the end, Dave Levinsky, somebody else since me has created a book also called Start at the End. So you can find the book on Amazon. You can find me at planpros.ai. That's our business plan, that's our AI powered business plan software. If you just fill out the contact form and say, hey, you have a question for me, that'll get to me. I am on social media, but I'm less active on the social media channels than more traditional email.
I appreciate you sharing that. Everyone, you heard all the value he brought today. Be sure to connect with him, add him to your network. If you're in the market for a business plan, you undoubtedly found the guy to go, right? Helping over 1 million people indirectly through his company. So amazing work, Dave. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Remember to subscribe to stay current with our community of entrepreneurs. My name is Vincent A. Lancy. It's an absolute joy to host and keep this show going. We're brought to you by Coming Alive Podcastproduction.com. And with that, we're signing off across the country together. Dave, thank you so much.
Thank you, Vincent. Thanks for having me. And thanks for everyone for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode. I would love to hear your feedback. What did you love? What do you want to see more of? Are there any questions you would like me to ask the guests who come on the show? This show is not possible without you, the amazing listeners, so please email us at podcastsbylancy@gmail.com and let us know what you think. We'll also feature you on a later show. Please remember to subscribe to stay current with our amazing community of guests who will continue to come on the show, sprinkled in with solo episodes from me, Vincent A. Lancy. With that, I look forward to introducing more shows to you each and every week. And with that, we're signing off today. Enjoy the episodes and make it a great day ahead.